Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. It's been quite the week for Destiny news. Earlier this week we got our full breakdown of what we can expect for Crimson Days, the first event after the fixes to the Eververse reward system, so it'll be really interesting to see how that works out. That of course drops on Tuesday. If you want to learn more about the event, I did a full breakdown of it and I'll leave a link to that video down below. But then after that we got some more news, including details on their plans for the reworking of Nightfall, emblems, and auras, and then a rework to prestige raid modes. And then we of course got a confirmation from Activision that we will indeed be receiving a fall major expansion for Destiny 2. There's a lot of really cool stuff to go over, so let's get into it. Alright, so we are going to bury the lead for a little bit as we work through the news in the order that we're going to be getting them. So first let's jump into the Nightfall news. The Nightfall, as you might know, is going to undergo some massive changes with the February 27th update. The countdown timer mechanic that sends you to orbit is completely gone. The modifiers as you know them are also gone, and in their place will be a new scoring system, customizable modifiers, and Nightfall specific rewards. So of course we'll dive deep into the new systems when it releases, but let's quickly outline how it will work. So now during the Nightfall you will have a score counter, a score multiplier, and a countdown clock as you can see here in the bottom right. The countdown clock doesn't send you to orbit anymore, but now it limits how many points you can earn during that run. Now it seems that the normal mode will feature simple damage multipliers, giving you more points for precision hits and orb generation. It will be interesting to see how this works with masterwork weapons since you can generate orbs that way. The countdown timer will decrease the amount of points you can earn per kill when it reaches certain points. At the 15-minute mark, it will drop to 50% earnings, and at 18% it will stop collecting new points. At this time, it's simply a matter of completing the encounter. This will be interesting considering that some strikes are naturally longer than others, but I guess if everyone's on an even playing field, it doesn't matter. Upon completing the Nightfall, you will be granted a Nightfall Challenge card, which brings us to Prestige Mode. The Prestige mode of Nightfall will interact with this optional challenge card. The card will allow you to set your own custom modifiers that will increase the core multiplier. There will be 3 modifiers available at the start of the new system, and you can choose to equip them onto the card as you can see here. First up is a modifier called Extinguish. This will take you back to orbit if the entire fire team is killed in a respawn restricted zone. And yes, this is exactly the original Nightfall modifier from Destiny Year 1. Very exciting. Then we have Elemental Singe modifiers, which increase specific elemental damage from all sources by 25%. So you're no longer a slave to Prism, thank goodness. And then we have a final modifier, which is a power modifier, which allows you to decrease your overall power output to gain a higher multiplier. So the idea here is that you can set the challenge that you want to endure. I kind of really dig that. They hope to extend the variety of challenge modifiers over time, but they're waiting for an initial round of feedback before they make any other changes. I personally think this is awesome and has a lot of potential. It will definitely help make Prestige mode much more relevant. Now, perhaps what is even more important to make Prestige relevant are the rewards. There is a new Aura emblem rework that we saw on the development roadmap, and it's starting to make a lot more sense as to what that is. Essentially, each strike will feature its own emblem. So here you can see the emblem for the inverted spire. I love this because of all the extra features you now have with emblems. So first you can see it tracks your best score, and a global threshold that will then activate the other perks. The first of which is your aura. This is how auras will now work in Destiny 2 after the update. You can see the dedicated aura slot is completely gone, and that is because auras are now attached to the specific emblems from that activity. The next perk is a 25% increase in Vanguard token drops for you and your fire team in that strike. This is a very, very welcome addition indeed. This is what we needed from auras. Let's just hope this extends to other activities. Now, in this screenshot, there are also hints that you'll be able to customize your emblem in some way, maybe with shaders or something like that. Also, the purple color of the aura is highlighted in a way that also hints that it might be customizable as well. Maybe this will be the return of things like chroma, or maybe you can just pick the color with some glimmer or something like that. Now, on top of that, they also hinted at Nightfall exclusive rewards yet again. Chris Barrett mentioned in the blog, each terrible villain that players face should have a very rare and powerful unique item themed to them that tumbles to the ground as they collapse into a pile of bones. I very much agree with this, and I'm very happy that Chris does as well. Now, they did mention that there are even rarer emblems to collect from Prestige Nightfall, so hopefully it goes beyond emblems, but we'll just have to wait and see if that makes it into the update. Next, we have some changes coming to Prestige raids and the reasoning for the Prestige Eater of Worlds delay. And as I guessed in a previous video, it is indeed because they are reworking Prestige mode entirely. They mentioned that the Prestige layer was simply going to feature tougher enemies, and they decided that they wanted to do something more interesting than that. So their new goal with Prestige difficulty is to make it more replayable, similar to the Prestige Nightfall with those custom modifiers. So starting with the May Season 3 update, normal mode will always be available as it is currently, but Prestige will rotate between the different raids week to week. So one week Prestige Leviathan will be active, and then the next week it'll be Prestige Eater of Worlds, and so on and so forth. Similar to how challenge modes rotated during Destiny 1's Age of Triumph. So what will justify this, and why are they doing it? Well, that's because Prestige raids will work a little bit differently now. Essentially, they are implementing a semi-locked loadout system along with a complementing modifier. This will change week to week and will be a surprise to us every time it hits. They gave us some hypotheticals to help us understand, but of course these are not going to be what ends up happening. So let's take a look at some of these examples. So week 1 hypothetically would be Eater of Worlds, and the modifier for that will be Marksman. Precision damage is increased, landing a precision shot grants 1 ammo directly to the magazine. Sounds pretty cool. The required loadout, however, is a kinetic hand cannon, an energy scout rifle, and a linear fusion for your power weapon. So I think essentially this will look like the current lock loadout where everything is grayed out in your menu. However, you will have access to interchange all of your hand cannons, all of your scout rifles, and all of your linear fusions. So for instance, if you're holding your Better Devils and you also have your Old Fashioned in your inventory, that'll be the only weapon you can switch to. So moving on to the second example, we now have the rotation on Expansion 2's raid layer, and that gives us a modifier of Gladiator. Your melee damage is increased and melee kills grant bonus super. Sounds pretty awesome. The required loadout, however, is a sidearm, a submachine gun, and a shotgun for your power weapon. And of course, this is meant to supplement your close range combat to get those melees in. And then for the third week, we rotate back to Eater of Worlds. I'm very curious why they didn't use Leviathan Actual as the third example. Maybe this doesn't apply to Leviathan. We're getting a little bit mixed signals here, but hopefully that doesn't mean that. Anyways, moving on to the third example, we have the modifier for Conduit. Each kill you get before reloading or swapping weapons gives you increasingly more ability energy, which sounds very interesting. And then we have the required loadout of the auto rifle, the Risk Runner, and the grenade launcher. This one's a little interesting because you would assume that you would want to put on the Sweet Business so you can get more kills before you have to reload, but they're making you put on the Risk Runner, which does actually give you more ammo, but you have to be taking damage to get it. So this sounds really cool. On a surface level, I really like it. Other content creators like Dado have been doing stuff like this for years. They're keeping things fresh and interesting by providing artificial challenges for themselves. And I can already see the fun banter and the jokes and the frustration at only being able to carry a Risk Runner and a grenade launcher to fight Argos. I like this because it will force you to think creatively and employ more of your arsenal. My loadout for 99% of encounters is my Better Devils, my Eulogy, and my Sins of the Past rocket launcher. So I'm excited at the prospect of having to figure out how to use the extended arsenal of the game. I just hope that the weapons and ability sandbox can keep up. As for the rotation, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Prestige is already super lucrative. I mean, I got 4 pieces of Prestige armor for one single run, so it's whatever. Normal mode will always be there, and it's still very lucrative, giving you loot every single encounter. And of course, normal mode will still give you the highest light gear, so in my eyes, it's sort of a non-issue, especially with everything else that will be added into the game over the next year. Which actually brings us to the big topic of the day. The fall expansion has been confirmed by Activision. They mentioned it during their latest earnings call as coming after Expansion 2 and was labeled as a major expansion, which was the title given to the Taken King. Now we don't have a name for it yet, and there are some fake leaks that showed it being called the Taken Queen, but that was just a name a lot of us in the community came up with to help explain what we were talking about during conversations. Now, we all know it'll involve Savathun in some way, as she's being very much prepped to be the next big bad. So she might come and become the new leader of the Taken, or the return of the Queen to the Reef would be pretty cool, or maybe even the return of Eris Morn as the leader of the Taken to fight Savathun's invading Hive army. Hence, the Taken Queen could really apply to any of that. I personally like that last scenario. I mean, we know Eris has gone off to some corner of the system to research the Hive, or even the Taken. We know Savathûn is targeting our system, and we know the Taken were set up during the Rework campaign to still be a topic of interest. So I'd love to see Eris come back and become the leader of the Taken to fight off Savathûn. We also have hints in the database that we might be returning to the Dreadnought. I think there is a reason that we can still see it orbiting Saturn. Either way, I fully expect the major expansion to be a sequel to The Taken King, but I'm sure they'll come up with a more creative title instead of The Taken Queen. Maybe Revenge of the Queen, I don't know. But what I do know is that we can expect to learn much more about it during E3, and that is most likely when we'll see a reveal trailer of some kind. Now, for those unsure, let me give you a bit of context. Now, it's by no means my job to convince you of anything, but The Taken King overhauled the game almost entirely and took it from a game that got 6s and 6.5s in reviews to a 9.5 and a 10 game. These major expansions have the ability to do that, and especially with all of the hard work that they're doing for the next 3 updates, I have all the faith that the fall expansion will represent the return to glory for this game. I haven't been as pumped for the future of this game since the reveal of The Taken King. It is clear that this major expansion was being worked on as soon as the core D2 team wrapped on the launch game and handed it over to the live team. Let's just hope that Christopher Barrett plays a more active role in the development, and hopefully they can implement the right changes to bring players back. Either way, as always, I'll be here every step of the way to keep you informed. Anyways, what do you think of the changes to the Nightfall, the Prestige Mode raid, and do you think the fall expansion could bring players back? Let's discuss. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more Destiny content. And I will see you all next time.